Happy Friday, North Texas. I'm Scott, and today is Friday, April 17th. We want to wish a happy University Day to those who celebrate. Hope you get to, are currently, or got to enjoy the celebrations from 11 to 1 on the Library Mall today. With Earth Day coming up next week, we've got a great conversation about water resources on tap. Get it? On tap. See what we did there? But first, we've got some news to know for our UNT community. Limited tickets are still available for the April 21st LinkedIn Open to Work Lab, an interactive experience where students will hear from industry leaders on how to navigate what work looks like now and what it means for your future career path. Attendees will receive a free lunch, career starter kit giveaways, and a copy of the book Open to Work: How to Get Ahead in the Age of AI. Check the show notes for the event agenda and to register now. And be sure to make a plan to visit the LinkedIn Campus Commons experience from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday, April 20th through Wednesday, April 22nd in the Business Leadership Building Commons on the first level. All students are invited to attend. This event is designed to assist students in building their careers by helping them create or update their LinkedIn account, get professional headshots, learn how to stand out, and more. And right after Earth Day next week, UNT's annual Earth Fest celebration will take place from 4 to 6 p.m. Thursday, April 23rd. Festivities will be hosted on the Library Mall, but will move into the Union if there's rain. Those festivities will include live entertainment, local vendors and student orgs, food, and educational activities, all free with a current UNT ID. There will also be celebrations at Discovery Park from 9 to 11 a.m. in CG 130. The UNT at Frisco will celebrate the day before, that'll be April 22nd, from 2 to 4 p.m., with a plant scavenger hunt, paper making, and a composting and planting station. What a great way to show that we mean green. Check the show notes for more information. Students who want to participate in this spring's UNT Ring Ceremony and Eagle Ring Dive need to register by April 30th. Each participating student selects a loved one to present their class ring in recognition of the role family and friends have played in their UNT journey. After learning about the symbols featured on the rings, students submerge their rings in the fountains on the Library Mall. At the end of the event, McConnell Tower is illuminated to celebrate the graduates' academic victory. Register at the link in the show notes for the May 3rd event. And now for some athletics news, here's Zach Babb with the Mean Green Minute.
Mean Green softball kept pace with the top of the American Conference, taking 2 of 3 from East Carolina at home last weekend. Friday's game was a 5-1 victory. That was followed up by a 4-3 win on Saturday before falling in the series finale 8-2 to the Pirates. They also followed up that successful weekend series with a midweek win over Abilene Christian on Wednesday, a 9-7 victory there. The Mean Green sit in second place, just behind South Florida, only by 1 game in the American Conference softball standings. They head on the road to Memphis this weekend for a 3-game series with the Tigers. The Friday game is at 5 p.m. Saturday's contest is at 2 p.m. Sunday's series finale is at noon.
Thanks for that update, Zach. Let's hope the softball team can pile on some wins against Memphis this weekend to get back ahead of South Florida in the conference standings. With Earth Day coming up, I spoke to Director of Graduate Studies and Professor of Geography and the Environment, Dr. Feifei Pan. Dr. Pan is a hydrologist with a focus on hydrological processes. His research centers on application of theories, numerical models, remote sensing, and GIS techniques to environmental studies including water resources, hydrology, meteorology, and climate. We talked about how his research could have big impacts on water conservation and flash flood forecasting and warning systems. Feifei, thank you so much for joining us today for our Earth Day episode. Can you tell me about your research and how it relates to conservation or sustainability?
Okay, so I'm a hydrologist. I'm training like a hydrologist. I got my PhD from Georgia Tech, Georgia Institute of Technology. Even I'm a civil engineer, but I'm a hydrologist. I study water, especially because hydrology is related to water, and I study surface water hydrology. So there are 3 things right now I'm studying. One is related to soil moisture, right? We know soil water content is very important for agriculture because we need to use that information can determine if the vegetation of crops under the water stress, right? So that's why in some region you need irrigation, right? So irrigation, we want to conserve groundwater resources, especially in like Texas high plain region, right? Because the other area is a semi-arid region. You don't have much precipitation, so agriculture all generally depends on groundwater resources. But also, with increasing water demand, right, for agriculture, so that water level decline dramatically in this Texas Panhandle region. So almost like every year you have 1 meter water level decline. Right? So I want to save groundwater. Like I want to do something for that. So that's why I'm working on a soil moisture based irrigation scheduling tool, and we can predict soil moisture in next like 7 days, and use that information to guide farmers to tell them right when you can water your plants and how much water you can apply, so that can save groundwater resources. So that is one research I'm doing now. Another research is related to remote sensing, right? Remote sensing means we use satellites to see, like to observe the Earth's surface without a direct contact. So that's why I call remote sensing. And so I want to use satellite, like an image, satellite imagery to see inundation area for like a flooding area or like a river cross section. And then we can use that information to estimate water level, right? Something we call river stage. That information is very important because we can use that information to estimate the river stream flow discharge, right? Also, river discharge stream flow also is very important variable because we can use that to do flood forecast and also flooding prevention. So this is second research I'm doing now. And the third research is related to numerical simulation, like a modeling. We try to model water and energy balance, or water and energy exchange between atmosphere, land surface, and vegetation. So we want to get a good estimate the heat or energy exchange between atmosphere and the land surface, because this can provide some science foundation for us to understand the climate change impact water resources. Yeah, so these basically three main research I'm doing right now.
Okay. Touching back on the first topic of the modeling for irrigation seems really related to conservation and kind of water sustainability. Obviously, that applies more directly to the agricultural industry and farmers. For our listeners, any kind of tips or general advice of how they can be kind of more water conscious?
Yes, definitely. Because I think this is indisputable fact is climate change. We are and this warming climate, right? So if you look at the annual mean temperature globally, you see the mean temperature. I'm talking about annual mean, like an annual average temperature, almost everywhere on Earth has been increasing, right, dramatically. So when your temperature increase, that will increase evaporation, right? That will increase the chance of drought. And also, I said for the Texas Panhandle region, we got intense agricultural activities there, right? So we use a lot of groundwater resources there. But that area also is a semi-arid region. You don't have much surface water. You don't have much precipitation. And so that's why I think for that area, we particularly we should be careful about the water usage, especially we want to save water. We want to make the agriculture sustainable in that area.
With your work around kind of climate modeling and flood and water cycle prediction, obviously we're coming up on the year of the tragic, significant flooding that happened in central Texas. Is the research you're doing in any way related to being able to predict events like that more accurately or in a way that would help with warning systems or anything like that?
Oh, yes, that's a good question. Yes, tragic happened last year, Central Texas, because flooding, right? That is a flash flood. And one thing is also related to climate change, I think, because if you increase the temperature, you increase moisture content, right, in the air. We know as the air temperature increase, air can hold more moisture, and then once you got like a moisture transport from Gulf of Mexico, right, you got large amount of moisture transport to this area. And also for the Texas, especially Central Texas and North Texas, this area is kind of unique. We also have some cold air, right, dry air coming from north. So once dry cold air meet with the air comes from Gulf of Mexico, like moisture and moisture and warm air. Once these two air masses meet, that can produce a thunderstorm, that can produce a storm, heavy rainfall, right? So definitely yes, we need to do research to read that to can we like predict this flash flood. Yes, I'm doing right now. So one thing I'm doing is doing like water balance model to simulate water balance, stream flow, and flooding at a fine scale model. Yes, definitely we need to do more work related to forecasting flooding, especially like a flash flood. It's because also for last year event, tragic event, that also unique land surface, right? That is like a rock. You got many impervious surface because of rock
Mhm.
stuff, and water cannot flow infiltrate in the soil, and so they all flood into nearby stream. Right? Another reason is also before the event, you have a drought in that area. So when soil is dry, and that also can reduce infiltration. Yeah, definitely. I think we need to do spend some effort to do improve our predictive to improve our ability to predict a flash flood. Another thing I think also related to remote sensing, right? So if we can use some satellite imagery, or maybe we can actually maybe also install some cameras or video, we can capture the water level change in the area. Then we also can use that information to issue warning to let people evacuate so during flood event. Yes.
Good to know. The topic of climate change in general has become very politicized over the years. What's something you wish more people knew or understood about the climate situation?
Oh yeah, so for the climate situation, yeah, usually people think about people all say climate change, global warming, because sometimes in the spring, like still very cold, right? And
Mhm.
people then think, oh, so is that contribute to the climate, like warming climate? It's actually not, because when we talk about the climate change, when we talk about warming climate, we talk about the annual mean. It's like an
Mhm.
average, right? It's not just like today or this week or last week temperature change. So when you calculate like an annual mean, like we got like three, for example, we have every side we have like a location we have 365 days. So every day you got a temperature, you add up, you divide by 365 days, then you can see how the temperature change, right? So the annual mean temperature actually increased, has been increased, I think almost everywhere almost. So that is the background, so we do have this increase in annual mean temperature. But because you increase like an annual mean temperature, so that means the atmosphere become more unstable because you hold more energy. Because when you input, because when air become humid, right? When you increase moisture content, air become more unstable, right? So that's why also, especially during early spring, sometimes we got a jet stream, right? We got a jet stream, jet stream. So jet stream can move further to the south, right? When jet stream move further to the south, that can bring like tremendous, very cold and dry air from Arctic Ocean from Canada to this area. So that's what can cause our temperature drop dramatically. So the reason is I think is related because now atmosphere become not stable, and also because you got energetic, right? You increase atmosphere stability, you increase energy, right? Like in the atmosphere. So that's why jet stream can like move, can flow further to the south, right? In the spring. Usually jet stream, like polar jet stream, only reach maybe Midwest, right?
Mhm.
During yeah, but now the jet stream can move further south, like to the Texas, to Houston. So that's why sometimes, like Houston, you can have a snowfall of ice. The reason
Mm-hmm.
because the jet stream, like flew, is moved further south. The reason
Mm-hmm.
why, because now atmosphere, they gotta hold more energy. Why hold more energy? Because you got more moisture holding in the atmosphere. Okay, another thing I'm talking about is also climate change can also combine the impact by urbanization, right? Because we know as the population increase, we need to develop more area, we need to build a house so that's why if we change nature soil to impervious surface, right? Because we need more housing, right, for the people, right? Because with
Yeah.
increasing population. So once you got this climate change plus urbanization, so that can also increase the chance of a flash flood in the urban area, right? Because you change your nature soil to impervious surface, you decrease the infiltration capacity, you decrease infiltration, right? So when you got the water, like heavy rainfall hit like a street, parking lot, roof, they all float to nearby streams. So that's why that can increase the chance of flash flooding, right? So that's why in the people live in the city, urban area, we also need to be think about that, right? So urbanization combined with climate change can increase the flash flooding chance of probability in urban area. So that's
Yeah.
why my suggestion is for the urban planning, city planning, we do need to keep some green space. We do need some buffer zone to hold water before they move to nearby stream channel.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Another thing actually I'm doing right now, but I'm just my student working on that is a PhD student. So we're looking also fire, also climate change can increase the Wi-Fi chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it increase drought conditions somewhere, right? And so we are looking at now is how wildfire impact the water quality and quantity. After fire, right? So you reduce the vegetation cover, right? So because once you got a tree, you got a canopy, that can actually hold water, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can tap the water, then they can reduce surface runoff, right? They can reduce surface erosion, so that can also reduce the sediment transport, right? Erode to the channel. So yeah, fire. If I got a wildfire, that means can increase the flash flood chance and also can degrade the water quality. So that also a study I'm interested now. I'm working with the PhD student. So that also research, I think we also need to spend some effort to that.
Yeah, it's it's not necessarily something you would think about when you think about the effects of a fire that you would have to worry about flash flooding, but that makes sense that the loss of vegetation would make that
Well, yeah,
more susceptible.
sustainable. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
That is a lot of really great information, Feifei. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. If you have any question, let me know.
Big thanks again to Dr. Pan for joining me for the podcast this week. Check the link in the show notes to learn more about the great research being done by Dr. Pan and his colleagues in the Department of Geography and the Environment. Remember, you can help us grow by telling a friend about the show, sharing it on social media, or leaving us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen. You can also let us know what you think about the show directly by emailing podcast@unt.edu or calling 940-565-4341. Until next time, we hope you have a happy Friday, North Texas, and go Mean Green. Happy Friday, North Texas is a production of the University of North Texas. Today's show was produced and edited by Scott Brown with original reporting by Scott Brown. For more information, visit unt.edu/podcast.